Well, good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all today. I think you all know me, but just in case you don't, I'm Jerry Slade, and I'm the chairman of the leadership team. And that's basically what I'm here to talk to you today about. I've got a series of slides that you'll be there most of the time, so you won't have to look at me for the whole time and try and catch everything that I say. Basically, the following is to clarify some confusions over the new leadership team, and also to address the issue of women in senior leadership at MCF, which came up as a result of the new leadership team. So we announced the new leadership team on the weekend before lockdown hit in, which in hindsight was not the best time in the world for us to do that, but it's just the way it worked out. We've been trying to do the announcement for quite a long period of time, and that happened to be the time that we actually felt we had to do it. Why the new team? Well, the new team was basically set up because the old system of elders, leaders team and trustees was failing. Especially the elders were really struggling with a number of us suffering from both physical and mental ill health, just from the workload and the pressure. There was a lot of duplication going on. You'd end up going to 3 meetings and talking about the same subjects each time. The new leadership team is designed to be more efficient and an inclusive mechanism for leading the fellowship forward for the foreseeable future. And it wasn't a quick decision, it wasn't a sudden spontaneous thing. The elders have been talking about it for 4 or 5 years, and when I say talking about it, there was Bible studies, retreats, and a lot of time in prayer before the final model that you saw then came into being. At the same time, the trustees were increased from 3 to 7 to spread the workload better, and also the one thing I must iterate quite carefully at this point is the fact that the trustees is not affected by this reorganisation, as it were. They are still responsible for the legal, health and safety, and the practical side of our buildings and our people that are employed, and so on, and that role has not changed. So the new leadership team, as was announced, consists of a 10-person departmental model with a chairman, which is me, and with the various titles of worship, services and teaching. When I say titles, I mean departments. These are the departments. It was a bit difficult to know what sort of group of ministries. That's what we mean by department. Worship, services and teaching, pastoral care and discipleship, evangelism and global mission, enabling, and youth and children. And the system is to have 2 people jointly responsible for each of those departments. So for worship, services and teaching, we had Chris Spracklin and Sarah Slade. For pastoral care and discipleship, Aiken George and Jude Maynard. For evangelism and global mission, Trevor Goss and Jan Clark. And with enabling, Phil Reed and Andy Starmer. And also, just as important, all of these equal importance, youth and children, Jamie Bruce and Pippa Davis. We'll make one comment that some of you may have noticed that Tim Clark's also involved. Tim is providing support to Jan owing to her work patterns, which makes it virtually impossible for her to make it to the meetings. So Tim has been covering for Jan when she's not available, and has actually made a lot of positive inputs into the team. Okay, so I put another slide just to give you an indication of all the different things that come under each category. Now, one thing to point out at this point, that these categories are not, doesn't mean that once a ministry is in that category, it doesn't affect any of the others. It's just a grouping to provide a tier structure, so the people in charge of those ministries, the ministries have got someone to report to and to ask for escalation of any issues or ask for support from the fellowship as the whole through the leadership team. So it doesn't matter hugely which brackets. I mean, some things like obviously Rosemary with communications comes across the whole piece, and the reason she's in communications or in enabling is so that Rosemary has got a direct contact to talk to on the leadership team. So with Phil and Andy, doesn't mean that you can't talk to anybody else on the leadership team, but that's just to give us some sort of structure to work around. And obviously the list I've got there is not comprehensive, and if anybody's got anything that they feel we need to include in the list, or we need to work out structurally more carefully, then please feel free to let us know. This isn't set in stone. Now, the leadership team was originally selected through prayer and discussion by the elders based on the giftings and abilities of the people that came up. But not to say there are other people who are greatly gifted within the fellowship, but the combination of gifts and abilities and the different departments, that was the set of people that we felt God led us to. And we feel that was the correct selection of people. So the selection was based on gifts and abilities, not on any other factors such as gender. However, this has changed to some extent because some concerns were raised by some members of the team, in fact, and members of the congregation regarding having women as top-level leaders. This came up in, I think, fairly on in the leadership team meetings back in April time, and there was a long period of discussion, culminating in a number of people going off and writing biblical based representations for both points of view. So both points of view being complementarians, which believe that women should not hold certain offices in the church, and egalitarians, women are not restricted from any role whatsoever. So after a period of various inputs and reports and documents and discussion, we decided to have a focused meeting in August where we went through all the inputs that had come from various people, and we discussed on the way forward. Now, the baseline issue was we had an equal number of team members with holding both positions. So a number of people strongly believed that men should have the headship within the fellowship, and a number of people who believed that women should be able to hold any role based on their giftings and abilities. So that had the danger of becoming an impasse and something that we would struggle to go forward together. So in the end, we put together a proposal which is for a 3-man spiritual headship for the church, which is not the ideal situation for either of those two baseline positions. However, it was felt that it was very important that the team can move forward to fulfil its purpose to equip the church to bring the message of the gospel of Christ to the lost. That's the baseline. So the leadership was revised, and a 3-man spiritual headship team was brought in over the top of the 10-person departmental leadership team. The 3 people, as 3 was decided to be a good number, have identified as Chris Spracklin, myself and Phil Reed. And we will provide an oversight, obviously an all-male oversight, to provide a spiritual authority should any issues arise within the leadership team. On discussion, it was felt that 3 would be the best number for this group. Now, it's only a spiritual authority over the leadership team and therefore over the church, but it's only on a as required basis. It's not another body that will be meeting regularly, although we intend to meet for prayer and Bible study on a 2 to 3, 4 times a year basis, because obviously we need to pray into that position and that responsibility. So that, although, as I say, we had an equal number of people holding both positions. Now, I must stress that both sides felt that they had biblical support for their position, and equally, I believe they felt that they were right in their interpretation of the scriptures. So neither of these two groups are coming from a basis of influence from society. Both groups are coming from a position of Bible study and understanding of the Word, and from hearing other people speak on this subject. So that information will be made available to you. You'll be able to read it. I'm going to send it to Rosemary, and Rosemary can distribute it. It's a zip file. It's a lot of information. I'm sorry we won't be able to provide hard copies because there's so much information. But as I say, you're very welcome to look into that. We have removed all reference to who had which opinion and where the inputs came from, just because we felt that wasn't particularly beneficial to anybody to be looking into who was on which side, as it were. And we will be needing some help from the Blueprint Working Group to put some blueprints together for both the leadership team and for this new oversight team. And hopefully we'll be able to do that over the next few months. Just a few additional comments just to finish off. I've already mentioned the leadership team remains open to any tweaks to the departmental model that we've got. It needs fleshing out. We've got a lot of ministries that still need to be included in the listings, so people understand the organisation better. What does the new team mean to leaders of an MCF ministry? So the main difference will be that they will have 2 specific leaders over the department which contains their ministry, who will not be only seeking to prayerfully encourage them in what they're doing in the Lord, but available to support them in the unlikely event of difficult issues they may be called upon to deal with as a ministry leader. Also, obviously, there'll be information where the leadership teams got together and that there are plans for the future. These information and so on will be flow down to the ministry leaders as well. So the department leadership team department heads should be meeting with most of the ministry leaders at some point through the year, if not multiple times through the year. Okay, so as I say, in terms of the women in leadership information, I will send I've sent all the information to Rosemary, and she will be passing it out in the near future. So I'm sorry if that was a bit dry. I hope everybody understands where we're going forwards. We really do need to get together as a fellowship now and get behind our leaders. Not they're not there to be overlords or bossing people about. They're there to be your servants, and that is the heart that we want to develop amongst ourselves, not just in the leadership team but through the fellowship, of people who are serving our Lord Jesus. Thank you.